when I was 9, I built my first like fashion brand. It's all about how we feel and what we wear.
Is there a piece of fashion advice that you would give to your younger self?
Don't wear that. I have gone through many times where I look back and I was like, what was I thinking?
Welcome to Off the Hanger, the fashion podcast where we delve deep into our guests' wardrobes, finding out their favourite fashion pieces and the stories behind them. This week's guest is co-founder of AlterNew, Nancy Rhodes. I hope you enjoy this episode. Nancy, thank you so much for being part of Off the Hanger. It's really lovely to chat with you today. I'm really keen to find out, before we delve into your wardrobe, about AlterNew, because this, having looked on the website, is fascinating. Such a good idea.
Yeah, we're a very unique and much needed business in the industry. So we're actually a tech platform that enables brands to optimize their post-purchase experience, like alterations and repairs, a very important part of our kind of full holistic experience with apparel, making it a profit driver for brands. So we have software that integrates with existing and new tailoring teams to create a cohesive experience in store, online, or even tapping into brands like activations and events. So all of that said, at its core, we are helping brands launch and elevate their alterations and repairs offerings. So you as a customer feel like a brand has your back, they support you. We think of the brands that already provide that and how much we love them. And so we're just wanting everyone to have that opportunity for a brand to support them through these post-purchase experiences.
And it makes such an incredible difference as a consumer to have pieces that fit you well, that have been tailored to your leg length. I know that's always a big bugbear of trousers being the wrong length, but also those pieces that you buy that you absolutely love. And just sometimes something goes wrong, something happens, it needs repairing, and knowing that you can actually take it back to the brand and that they're going to be able to help you and look after it is an incredible thing.
You so deeply get it. And especially with what you talk about, like your whole podcast is about the emotional experience we have with apparel. How can we have that experience if we're being addicted to the buy and not to the keeping and loving and repairing and extending the life of those clothes that we have?
Exactly. I think it's crucial. It's a crucial part of the whole process. And how did you get into that? Did you love fashion as a child? Have you always worked in fashion?
I have. I have wanted to be a designer since I was 3 years old. So when I was 3, my neighbor had it was probably like 3 to 5, somewhere in that age range, but I was invited to her college graduation fashion show, and I watched this, and again, so young, how I remember this, I don't know, but I vividly remember this like ethereal green cape floating down the runway. And I was like,
sold already.
this is what I'm going to do forever. And luckily I had parents who were very supportive, and I went to art classes, and when I was 9, I built my first like fashion brand. Not really like people these days, like 9-year-olds build them. Then I was just drawing it on paper, and it was called Pink Lemonade. And then when I was a little bit older, I built out a report called Zapatos Isle that was Shoe Island. Decided I wanted to be a shoe designer. Basically, like my whole life has been driven by this like experience with the fashion industry, and so I ended up being a footwear designer. So I've built product for everyone from Beyonce, Kenneth Cole, but really have done product for like special makeups, private labels. So think of like Target, Marshalls, Burlington Coat Factory. Like all of them have a unique value proposition to their customers that brands sell into, and that was what I was building in footwear.
That's incredible. What an incredible journey. And so, do you have an earliest childhood fashion memory? Would you say it is that green ethereal cape? Because it sounds incredible.
That I would have to say there's really not an earlier one. But I did, my earliest like personal fashion memory is it was my birthday, and my friend and I had similar birthdays, so we had our parties together, and I was wearing this like dress with the alphabet on it, and my friend's mom was a designer, and so she comes in this like silver lame number, and I just remember watching her walk up our, to our door and being like so mad. I was like, this girl's outfit is so much better than my alphabet. Like I was just my level of anxiety, knowing someone had a better outfit than me. So I've spent my whole career trying to make sure everyone has a great outfit.
I love that. I love that. I love that you didn't make it a competitive thing to you to go, right, I'm going to spend my entire career making sure that my outfit is the best. You're like, no, I'm going to spread that joy and make sure everybody has got a great outfit.
It's all about how we feel and what we wear, right? It is, obviously, if we look at the psychology of fashion, which I've done a lot, especially going into fashion tech and understanding not only the need for the fast fashion apparel addiction, but also how we support quality garments, what that looks like. But it is the psychology of if you love what you're wearing, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be competitive to someone also wearing something amazing. But if you feel uncomfortable in what you're wearing or you don't love it, then you're going to start seeing other people. Well, they wore it better. They did it better. So it's really having and being confident in your personal style.
I think that's such an incredible insight. I've never thought of it in that way before, but it's so true. What's the oldest thing that you've got in your wardrobe?
I have so many things, and some of us who are lucky enough to have like homes out of our homes. So for me, like I have really old stuff that I leave at like my parents' house somewhere. Like I think she actually still has that alphabet dress. Let's be honest. But for me, I actually have it with me. I'm going to pull it out, and I've had it since this one. And this is again like I think from college or maybe right after college. And I probably have some older things, but this is the thing I have from right after college that I wear all the time. So I took it a little step further because I think we all have super old stuff that kind of just is more nostalgia than anything else. So this, I'm going to stand up. I don't know if you can see it. This is a very simple black dress. That is the back. This is the front. And it's got like a little petticoat under it. Um, it is from H&M, and it's made in Bulgaria. And it is one of, every time I wear it, so many trends have come and gone through for like this kind of ballerina dress. And so I've worn it with blazers. I've worn it with like wraparound sweaters. I've put different accessories on with it. But it is like the little black dress that will never go away. And it's, I said H&M, and I always say like it's all about us knowing how to find quality. Not It's not up to the brands necessarily, because you're going to find things, and maybe not now as much as in the past. And you can see all of the quality everywhere has gone down a little bit based on margins and expectations. And that can be a podcast for a different day. But in terms of like the things that we have, and looking at the things that we buy pre-loved, even H&M has some things that have stood the test of time.
I agree completely. I've got pieces in my wardrobe that would definitely qualify as fast fashion, but they've been in my wardrobe for such a long time and I've worn them so many times and I really look after them that I'm like, well, are they fast fashion, or was it just that when I bought them, yes, they were mass produced and they were cheap, but actually as the owner, I've taken responsibility and decided that I'm not going to use it as fast fashion. I'm going to actually wear it and look after it as something that holds as much value as a designer piece.
And I both I agree with that, and I also think that it's a question of, you know, overproduction, and there's a statistic that like there's enough garments in the world that we could go 6 lifetimes without having to buy something new. And so in looking at fast fashion, one of the reasons isn't just about the quality, but it is about the amount that is produced. And it is a question of, I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you not to go to Shein. I'm not going to tell you not to go to H&M or Zara. I could tell you a lot about like this social impact of knowing that if something costs $2, the chances that slave labor has produced it is pretty high. So having said that, I understand that people are buying who can't necessarily afford something more expensive. However, when you're buying something for $10 and wearing it for years versus buying something for $2, wearing it once and buying 10 more things at $2, just to create this cycle of, disposable wear, it is a different experience. And that's where like this new term of like ultra fast fashion has come into play. And I think fast fashion has gotten this stigma where you could actually say some things that sell at Nordstrom could be perceived as fast fashion, as well as Primark, as well as Shein. So starting to understand that like from our own lenses rather than from these like definitions that we see can help us really like just love what we have, wear it longer.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Now, what's the piece in your wardrobe that gets the most compliments?
That's a great question. I I get compliments. I'm constantly wearing my uniform. So during the winter, I wear probably skinny leg. I go basically jeans or trousers and a blouse that's usually floral or bright colored. But definitely go for like some of the more button up looks rather than like a t-shirt or a tank top. And then during the summer and fall, I wear a pleated skirt, which I think I'm wearing when I'm wearing my summer winter kind of look, which is pleated skirt and or skirt and tank top, because and then I can put things over it. But so the reason I say that is because I have a skirt right here. This is one of the skirts I definitely get a lot of compliments on. It's like this midi, cute little kind of fun. I wouldn't necessarily call it an Aztec print, but like a print of sorts that's really lovely. And so for me, it's less about that I get compliments. It's that I wear the same thing every day. I just mix and match what it is. And so I get compliments all the time. I even got this skirt, similar. Again, you can see I love a good like A-line, frilly, feminine skirt. And this one I actually got at it's the Jenny U collection for Urban Anthropology. So it was actually a bridesmaid's skirt, and I loved it so much. And it has pockets,
Oh,
so because obviously if it has pockets, we love it even more. And
exactly.
and I think it's become such a meme and it's so funny. But if we look at like the kind of history of pockets, which is some funny things, but like men have pockets because it fits their keys, it fits our phone, it fits all these things. And so women have to have a purse. So sometimes when we have pockets, one of the best things about it is having somewhere to put something when men get that so easily all the time.
I agree. I agree completely. I love pockets are a fascinating thing to me. All the kind of the myths about them, the idea that women had pockets taken away from them because it stopped us putting our spells in them in the Middle Ages, and that we shouldn't have pockets because our men are supposed to look after us and carry all of the things. And I'm just like, no. Also, if I have pockets rather than a purse or a handbag, then it means that I don't have to carry anybody else's things, because I've only got pockets, which therefore only fit my things in, not everybody else's things, which in my life is quite important.
So well said. Yes.
Now, are you somebody who likes a big splurge on your wardrobe? Do you have a most expensive piece, and what would that be?
I don't. I'm not a person who splurges, but Um, I do have some pieces that I've bought vintage. So I don't have that piece with me, but an Yves Saint Laurent skirt that I got vintage. Um, I'm less about how much I've splurged and more about how I've gone through purchasing it, who the designer is, how much I respect them. Obviously, as a designer myself, having been in footwear for as long as I have and moved into like the tech space, um, I value like who made my wardrobe. So I do try and have those pieces where I'm like, so for example, Ferragamo is like my hero. Um, I I've done reports on him. He basically came to the States with like $11 in his pocket, from what I recall. Went to get a degree or a certificate in anatomy so he could understand the foot better, and started creating. He's been such an innovator in the industry, both with the kind of shoes he's made, whether it's the invisible shoe, which was done with fishing line, raffia shoes, which were done when leather was it was during when they had to they weren't able to buy as much leather during the war. He's also was kind of one of those first people to think of the ideas of collabs, and having done something for Wizard of Oz, a rainbow shoe, as well as having, working with um, celebrities and building lasts, building footwear mold for each of those celebrities so he could build footwear that was customized just for them, which, there's a lot of tech trying to solve for that today. But the puzzle of creating footwear more sustainably continues to be a puzzle.
Yeah, it is like the whole backstory, I think, is just incredible. The things that he achieved, I think, are just unbelievable and just the most incredible designs. But still, as a brand, working and making the most incredible designs. It's not like they had a heyday and a prime and then they kind of went out of fashion. Like consistent, just incredible footwearness. I have a huge row of shoes all down that side of the wall, and so yes, I'm very much a fan. What is the newest piece you've got lurking in your wardrobe?
Um, the newest piece, it's funny because we do the Manhattan Vintage Show, which is here in New York 3 times a year, and we're the on-site tailors for the show. So each time I go, I try and like pick something up from one of the vendors, and support small businesses. But also, it's just like so fun to shop. They have 90 plus vendors. They bring us in to be on-site tailors. They have like fun music and a DJ, and really create this like spectacular event for shopping vintage. But I did spot a pretty phenomenal like knit zip up bomber that I'm thinking of going back to. So the answer is I don't have a newest. It's been a while since I've shopped because I'm an entrepreneur trying to like keep in my closet what I have, repair it, alter it. But that will be my potential future newest piece.
It sounds fabulous. I think you definitely should treat yourself all of that hard work. Are you quite sentimental about the things in your wardrobe? Do you tend to hang on to things for, obviously I know you repair everything and you really do look after it, but have you got a most sentimental piece?
Uh, I feel like all of my pieces are pretty sentimental. One of the things I talk about is how you should have a story to tell for each piece you have. I don't care if it's from Old Navy. I don't care if it's, something that was passed down to you. I have pieces that I wear that a friend's like, I'm not going to wear this anymore. Do you want it? And I'm like, absolutely, because then I'm going to get to go out and be like, oh, my friend gave this to me. It was great. And even like, I call this my arm party.
Amazing.
And so every piece on here has been given to me or I've gotten somewhere exciting. It's not curated. It just so happens to look perfect. Most recently is this number. I was visiting my friends in Oregon, and their, you know, daughter we opened this friendship bracelet together, and that's one of the pieces, as well as an heirloom piece handed down by my grandmother. So I think in the same way that our jewelry is kind of this mishmash hybrid of things that you've had for a long time and really respect, things that are expensive, things that are quality, and things that you just have a story to tell.
I love the idea of everything having a story. I think of all of the things in my wardrobe and they've all got stories. I love that. I think it's such a, you work in tech, you see, this would be a good conversation for you. So in an episode that I did previously with somebody else, they had a vintage brand, and I was saying that actually what we should do is somebody should come up with a way that you have a QR code that goes into vintage pieces, and there's some way that you can upload your story of that piece. So you wear that piece, you live with it for however many years, you take it on adventures, you upload your story, and then when you pass it on to someone else, they can scan that QR code, read all of your story about it, and then they can add their story. And so everything has this kind of way of tracking its story and where it's been and what it's done, because there's so many vintage pieces that I just think, I'd love to know who owned this.
So there is technology being built for that.
Yay!
So at its core, it would be called like a digital product passport. Digital product passports are now being put into new items, with the idea being that it's going to follow that item and its repair. It's not so much sentimental and the history of the clothes as much as it is just a way to track the traceability, either from like the manufacturing process into repairs, into resale. There's also a company called Evermore, and they're more specifically working with brands so that brands can get royalties from the product as it gets resold, which I think is a really interesting business model. But in terms of these stories, it's like the tech is being built. It's only a matter of time before that turns into social capital. So I'll be interested to see, and I would say, given that the tech behind digital product passports is increasing. There's also a company, Infinity, that's doing it on blockchain. But it won't be long before that turns into something more like socially driven.
I love that. I'm very excited by that. You've made my day by that little nugget of information that this is going to be an actual thing. Because I just think there's so many vintage pieces that I have, pieces that I kind of friends have. And I think, I wonder what the story behind this is. Like, who's worn this thing? Where did it go? I've got an incredible Giorgio Armani vintage kind of ball gown skirt that is just the most beautiful thing. And I'm like, somebody's worn this to something pretty spectacular. There's no way that this thing has made it to me and it's not had some sort of incredible adventure, and I'd love to know what it was.
Yep, it's the history of our clothes is what makes apparel and the fashion industry what it is today, and it's like a $1.5 trillion industry. I think that over time, if you look at the 50s, there was this kind of, you knew where the clothes were coming from because you knew the person who was giving them to you, right? It was much easier to track these things. And with industrialization and a global economy, it became less about the longevity and more about the seasonality and the cycle of buying something new. And there's something really exciting to like having something new in your wardrobe, but how can we make it as exciting to love the things you have, to rewear them every year, to bring them back out, to talk about, oh, not I just bought this, like not my fashion haul, but like my fashion care. Like look at the cobbler I just went to. Look at how I had this altered. Like I've had it for years, but like I love it so much, and it needed like a little update. So I hemmed them into pedal pushers. Whatever that looks like to kind of create this story in your own wardrobe.
I agree. I think one of my favourite Instagram accounts is a company here in the UK called The Seam, and they basically film themselves doing the repairs. and it is
Yes.
fascinating. I love
Yes.
watching them doing the repairs and painting people's shoes, and just incredible. I think more of that should be celebrated rather than, like you say, here's my latest Shein haul. And like, boring.
Yeah.
Awful and
They're
boring.
a similar business model to us. Not quite, but they're a similar mission in how do we reinvigorate repairs and alterations. Um, but what's interesting is that there is this excitement for care and repair. And so you talk about the seam. Restory was a company that
Yes.
had kind of launched that before and after. We do a few of those things. You have some companies in the U.S. trying to do that, and I never know how to describe it, but it really is kind of this almost like voyeuristic approach to watching the way in which things are tailored and repaired and cared for. And it's so meditative that it creates such engagement when it comes to how not only consumers are engaging with it, and as we sell to brands, it's like, oh, how can we get people involved in like repairing our products and sharing that content and having hundreds of thousands of people watch it.
Yeah, I think it is just such a fascinating kind of thing. And now my algorithm knows I like that. That's all the type of things that it gives me. And I'm like, I'm here for this. I'm absolutely here
Same.
for this, of people chopping things up and turning them into something new, and me sitting watching going, I'm sure I could do that. I could give that a go. That'll be fine. Now, what's the piece in your wardrobe that most sums you up?
Um, I think for me, it's actually funny. It would be outerwear.
Yes.
So I am from Los Angeles. I have had like a kind of love hate relationship with winter because I grew up in Los Angeles. I moved to New York from San Diego. I lived in Oregon for college and for high school. And so I've been in these kind of like more mild climates. But when I moved to New York, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so cold all the time. And in finding my first puffy coat and finally having the resources to succeed, because it was like, oh, I can go outside and it's really cold and I'm warm and I have one coat where it is a fur collar. And again, we can have a different conversation around the environmental consequences of fur versus faux fur, and having been to factories that produce faux fur, looking at the life cycle assessment and actually seeing how dangerous faux fur is, but how terrible regular fur can be if it's not sourced the right way. But again, I digress because
We can do that as another episode.
is so complex. But this specific garment has a fur collar, but you know how most fur collars are on the hood and it comes around. This fur collar is actually the collar. So I don't even bring a scarf with me. I just zip it up. And the reason why I say it defines me, because I am a beach girl. I am summer. I am like, I will go skiing as long as like the après is most of the skiing. So I I think the reason I say it sums me up is because it's all about having the resources to succeed through the clothes you wear. And it was such a game changer for me living in New York and loving being here and being okay to like walk around during the winter. And I'm sure I could say the same for like a bikini at the beach in LA or Hawaii or whatever. But I think that most sums up like my quest to make sure everybody not only loves what they have, but it is actually the right utility for their needs.
Yeah, so incredibly important, especially when it comes to outerwear, definitely. Now, have you ever fallen foul of a wardrobe malfunction or a fashion faux pas, and would you like to share?
um,
That was a very knowing laugh.
I have I have definitely had a actually this was not my experience. I have had a zipper rip, but I was able to kind of uh, get it fixed well enough and wear a coat for the night. So it wasn't a huge deal. But when a few years back, um, had built out a mobile tailoring solution. So had a business where our tailors come to you. Think of it as like Zeal, like, or DoorDash, but specifically for kind of in-home tailoring. And we had an influencer. She was a journalist, and she emailed us, and she's like, "I was gifted this item to wear tonight, and I literally cannot zip it on." So we had a tailor go to her house, or go to her hotel actually, and literally stitch her into the garment. And so it's funny because we don't think about the fashion industry as partly being like, you see all these people on the runway looking so amazing, and like half the time there's someone who's like stitched them into the garment. Most recently, I think at the Golden Globes or the Emmys, Emma Stone had a wardrobe malfunction, and talked about like a tailor in the back literally like stitching her in before she had to go to the end. So partly mine, partly seeing the experiences of others in the industry.
Yeah, it's never fun when that happens and you have to get stitched into something. It's just,
No.
it's not the one. It's not the best moment. Now, this question I have been waiting with bated breath for since the very beginning of our chat, because as a shoe designer, there must be a very incredible favorite pair of shoes lurking in your wardrobe.
It's so funny because I have spent my career. I have 80,000 photos on my phone, because I probably shouldn't even share, from years of just like going to Europe, going to like all over the US, doing market research, looking at different shoes, understanding what they are. And it's been this experience where like I would never buy shoes because there were so many shoes I was looking at every day. I would have analysis paralysis. So a lot of the shoes I would have were like gifted to me by brands I was working with, doing wear tests, all the way from like, back in the day wearing like Charles David shoes that came from the styling closet, doing wear tests for like the Beyonce, her Darion shoes. Kenneth Cole like always had a bunch of shoes, some with like ruffles. But I will say my favorite, the shoes that I have had now for 12 years, are a pair of Chanel flats.
Oh, dreamy. Perfect. I think
And
that's
they
such a good
are,
answer.
yes, they are navy and black, which I love because I am like, so it's so funny. Everyone's like, you can't wear navy and black. And I'm like, I literally have shoes that have navy and black on them.
And they're from Chanel, so therefore I can.
Yes, I'm going to grab them.
Yes,
Give me
please.
1 second. Let's see, where are you? You are right on top here. This is them. Okay. Front, you can see, again, 12 years old.
In incredible
Here's the back.
condition.
And the reason why they're in such incredible condition is because every year I take them to the cobbler and I have new soles put on them. One time I waited too long and they were very expensive to do because they had to like redo the heel, because when it goes too far past the top lift, then they have to actually like work a new heel onto it. But if you can get it done regularly, and you can think of it almost as, your own personal subscription model to your expensive shoes, they will last forever.
That's such a good tip. I have a very beloved pair of Karl Lagerfeld boots that I'm looking at right now, and I think I've gone too far on the heel. I think the cobbler's going to hate me when I take them to get them redone. It's because I wore them too much last year. Now, is there a dream fashion item that you would love to own? You can have it irrespective of cost and practicality and availability. It's just magically dropped into your lap. What would it be?
Um, it's it's funny that you asked that because, the first thing that comes to mind would be like an Hermes bag. The history of it, I just recently listened to a podcast about, like, it was a 4-hour podcast called Acquired that spoke to, like, just from day one of them being kind of like a saddle company, literally, to what they are today. And I just think it's so fascinating. So, and I think they're more like art pieces than they are like apparel or fashion. So that would be um, the intuitive one. The thing I have been wanting for ages, and I just have not like hit go on, is the Rebecca Minkoff puffy sleeve hooded, like, hoodie, sweatshirt hoodie.
Yeah.
I don't know why I haven't bought it. I keep trying, like, maybe I'll buy it on vintage, or maybe it's one of those things where I'm like, I love it, but I keep not buying it. And this company Perfected, she's actually uh, patented a perfected with two D's at the end, get it, like double D. So she's patented technology that helps clothing stay over your chest without dropping. So you can now wear a button down. So it's kind of like these hidden closures. But she's kind of built out this whole puff sleeve category. And the good news is it's for people with larger chests and people with not as large of chests. And so that's one of the ones that I think what I've been waiting for is to buy it from like a small business that I could support. And so I'm looking forward to buying this perfected version of the puff sleeve hoodie.
Ooh, it sounds very fabulous. I'm loving that. To finish with, is there a piece of fashion advice that you would give to your younger self?
Don't wear that. I have gone through many times where I look back and I was like, what was I thinking? But I actually, I think the biggest fashion advice I'd give to my younger self is just like, I remember, like, crying in fitting rooms because clothes didn't fit me. And I think that apparel is much more inclusive today than it was when I was younger. Um, and I think that there was this interesting preteen fit when I was young that doesn't really exist today. Like, there aren't the same kind of what's the word, like, boundaries around what you wear today that there were then. So I think there's not advice I would give. I would just be like, enjoy the moment and love what you're wearing, because it's all going to change anyway. And your favorite moments are going to be laughing at what you wore today anyway.
I love that. That is perfect way to end. Thank you so much for being on Off the Hanger.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please remember to recommend Off the Hanger to a friend.